Let's begin the show then by talking with Silicon Valley 5G chip startup EdgeQ. The company has recently raised close to $75 million to help fund their ramp up in production as they're looking to sell technology to customers. Let's connect with Vinay Ravuri, who is the CEO and founder at EdgeQ. Thank you so much for taking time out and joining in. So let's just talk about this latest fundraise and what exactly the game plan is with these funds down the line. Can you share with us any sort of a perspective as to what this would take the total valuations to?
Yes, we raised $75 million in our Series B funding. We're not disclosing the exact valuation, but I can certainly tell you that it is an up round, unlike most of the investments that are happening nowadays in the tech industry. It is, I could probably say we're not quite a unicorn yet. We're several $100 million and certainly less than $1 billion valuation.
So just walk us through the details of the fundraise in terms of the investors that have participated. What have been your previous rounds of fundraising that have taken place so far?
Yeah, so to date, we've raised, including the 75, it's a total of about $120 million of funding that we've gotten since the inception of the company, which was in 2018. Our original seed investors was then called DFJ. They've rebranded called Threshold, which is a Sandhill venture company. They've invested in companies like Tesla, SpaceX, companies like that in the past. We've in the latest round, we've had multiple global investor base added to our current existing investors. That include a couple of Singaporean investors, ST Engineering, EDBI. We've also added SDF, which is a sovereign fund from UAE. We've had a few other strategic investors as well. These are corporate investors that have been with us.
All right. So what exactly is this fundraise going to be used toward? If you could just give us a little bit more perspective. You're looking to ramp up your production. What is the expansion plan down the line? Will you look at further fundraises? Is that on the anvil?
Yeah, we are a semiconductor company, which is a very capital intensive business. Nowadays, to build a chip, it takes north of $100 million. Just to get a chip into production. So for that, you need to kind of have a long game in mind. But at this stage, after 5 years of being around, we do have a 5G chipset, 4G, 5G combined chipset that we call a base station on a chip. So we are pretty much in months away from being in production, which means that we are this year itself will generate revenue with it. We have customers, some disclosed, some undisclosed. So this funds will be used for ramping those customers into production. So think like support structure and SG&A in general, just marketing to newer customers so that we add more to our revenue in the coming years.
Vinay, just give us a sense, given that you are a 5G chip startup company, what is the competitive landscape looking like? How many players are there and where do you stand?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. In the 5G chipset space, there's actually not a lot of companies, so competition is limited. It's I can probably count on my one hand. Some names that come to mind are Qualcomm. Is a well-known company, but mostly they're on the handset side. They're on the cell phone side. You've got the likes of Intel. You've got companies like that, but they generally are not a 5G company. I call them chip companies, 5G companies, in the sense that they sell chips into this industry, but not specifically made for 5G. So yes, there are large companies, but they're not really focused around the infrastructure side as EdgeQ is. So we are sort of unique in that. That's one thing to keep in mind. Second is it's generally very difficult to build cellular technologies. This is also why a lot of countries want to build their this know-how in their own countries, because Otherwise, you're sort of dependent on suppliers from outside. If you remember, Huawei was one of those companies that built that, and they were selling it around the world. But then over time, due to geopolitical issues, they've been banned in some countries. So this is a good space to be in, but it's also very difficult to be successful in the sense that you have to really understand this market and the engineering aspects. And we're sort of lucky, having come from ex-Qualcomm, ex-Intel, ex-Broadcom, having done this a few times. So we have the right makeup to be successful here.
Yeah, so to just take the clock back and sort of start off when EdgeQ began its operations in about 2018, how exactly did it begin? You know, what did your tech expertise and that of the other founders really build into creating this company?
Yes, so in 2018, when 5G was, it wasn't quite a buzzword, it was barely talked about. We felt that there is a need for a newer type of chip company solely focused around 5G. And I was at Qualcomm, so we decided, a few of us, not knowing really what we're going to do specifically, so we kind of quit, but we knew that there's a need for a fresh thinking in this space. And that's kind of all we left with. And we started the company with background with all around software, hardware.
Fair enough. That's how the company began. But what about your revenue run rate currently? What did you clock in for the year gone by? Are you currently profitable? Are you EBITDA break even?
No, we're not profitable yet. As I was saying before, we will start generating revenue this year. We've had some revenue in the past, but it was more NRE type of revenue. The actual product revenue will happen this year. It'll likely be, we're projecting let's say it's in the millions of dollars. We are not going to be cash flow positive this year. Certainly in the coming years, we will be. And as it is in semiconductor space, when the production happens, there's a hockey stick that happens because you sell a lot of chips because customers essentially deploy. Let's say next year or this year, they purchase a little bit ahead because they also have to make systems around it. And then the volume matters here, and there's a lot. The expectation is that there's a lot of volume. As a result, the revenue itself is a hockey stick. It's not one of those things you make, 1 million here, 2 million there. It's a much more meaningful uptick in revenue.
Okay, and how do you see your margins growing with lower costs down the line?
Yeah, we like to say that we're not, in silicon, it's people say you're selling sand, sort of, but it's not what we do. It is more value. So the margins although in the typical semiconductor industry, gross margins are in the 50-60%. That's considered good, but our expectations for this type of technology is far north of that. We expect it to be north of 60%, the gross margin. So the cost basis of it is, yes, it's important, but the margins are based on the algorithms and the software that goes with it and the value add features. As a result of all this, we do expect our margins to be very, very healthy.
So what's the game plan down the line? How do you see EdgeQ growing? Where is it that you would, envision the company, say, 5 years down the line?
Yeah, very good question. First thing, we have a very large development office in India, in Bangalore. In fact, majority of our development is there, chip development, algorithm work, all of it. And we do see us expanding quite a bit more engineering-wise in India as well as in other geographies.
Okay, and give us a sense as to what you're looking at as the next breakthrough in tech, because clearly AI today seems to be the buzzword.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I get asked that often. What's the next Chat GPT going to be? So look, I think certainly AI is going to be is going to disrupt a lot of things. I think the question is not so much that it'll disrupt, and that's the next big thing. It's that what industries and how is it going to disrupt it.
All right. Thanks so much then for taking time out and joining in. Good to know that that's going to be the next big disruption. And all the very best when it comes to EdgeQ.
Thank you.
All right.